Really exciting news for all penis-possessing listeners of the 716 Sports Podcast that we are proud to let you all know that we are sponsored by Manscaped. Manscaped, taking care of you, your business, just launching internationally. I know we got some international listeners. Bill's Mafia is a worldwide phenomenon. If you're over in the UK, they just launched over there as well. We are excited to share with you that you can get 20% off, get free shipping by using our code 716 Sports, but we'll get back to that in a second. Guys, it's just something everyone has to do. You have to take care of yourself. You have to trim. And what better way to make sure that you do it properly than with the Lawnmower 3.0? I got one just recently. It is as advertised. It is engineered specifically to take care of your hair down there. Just improved every time. It's the 3.0. This isn't the first iteration. This isn't some rookie move. This is Josh Allen 2020. This isn't Josh Allen 2018 taking care of your balls. This is exactly what you want in the pocket, dropping back and slinging the balls down the field. Cutting edge technology, waterproof technology, and an LED light that illuminates grooming areas for a closer and more precise shave. It's a 7,000 RPM motor, which sounds kind of ridiculous, but I have been told by top scientists that that is in fact true. And let's not forget, of course, the charging stand. Show it off loud and proud, because this intelligently designed stand is a convenient charging dock powered by USB technology. They haven't come out with USB-C yet, because clearly USB forever, the top charging technology. Let's make sure that everyone who listens here to this podcast is treating themselves, treating their body the best way possible. Use our code 716sports, manscaped.com at checkout. 20% off and free shipping on your order. Welcome back to the 716 Sports Podcast, recording on really for this originally named podcast, a truly historic Victory Monday, a Victory Monday that hasn't happened in the history of the show. The father of the show, the grandfather of the show, hasn't happened since I was 4 years old. Buffalo Bills, wasn't pretty at points. It wasn't as dominant as certain people on this podcast may have led us to believe it was going to be, but we'll let Derek say his piece here in a moment. But the Buffalo Bills do hold on and take down the Indianapolis Colts on Saturday, 27-24. There was some drama. There were some questionable calls. What isn't questionable is this podcast is proudly presented and sponsored by Manscaped. Excited to, for our second official week is partnering with them. Use our code 716sports for 20% off on checkout.
Plus free shipping.
Sorry,
I didn't know if you were going to get to that. I just
No, you're good. Free shipping, especially this day and age with everything being so crazy in the shipping world, the free shipping might be worth as much as that 20% off sometimes, depending on where you're buying stuff from. Derek, last week, and not to attack you early on here in the show, but I feel like you want to get it off your chest, and it's a good starting point.
You know what? You say that, like you don't want to attack me, but at the same time, I'm just like, my arms are spread out and I'm just yelling out, I deserve this!
So confidence not entirely unwarranted going in, but you certainly were the high watermark of confidence and cockiness of the five of us.
I think he predicted 81-3 on the podcast last week.
Did you think Indy was going to score? No, someone I think had Indy in single digits. I don't remember if that was
that
you.
was me.
You.
He said
that was definitely
field
me.
Goals.
I said 3 field goals. I said 38-9, and I'm gonna shut the hell up from now on because yeah, no, I'm not doing that to myself again there. I said it last week, arrogance personified. And no, I'm not wrong about that. And yeah, some of it was warranted. The way they were steamrolling teams, not just bad teams, but they were steamrolling the good ones too. And, in the NFL, that's just hard to do. So I thought, nobody's coming in hotter. Nobody's going to be able to have that kind of problem. Then Indy started decently, not hot, but the Bills started slow. And I'm like, oh, son of a bitch, here we go. That said, the Bills did not play anywhere close to their full potential, and they still did not put a doubt in my mind until a late fumble non-reversal.
So I guess let's start with two things. First, quick pulse of the room. Do you think the fact that this game was closer than we all predicted, was it because Buffalo didn't play as well as we thought, or was it because Indy was better than we thought they were?
Yeah, I raised my hand first. Thank you.
Steve.
I think it's because it was a playoff game. You have Taylor Heineke hanging with Tom Brady. You know what I mean? Like that was a one-score game.
Well, who's got film on Taylor Heineke?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It's in the
He is the
XFL.
backup to the backup to the backup. He was not even a thought.
They signed
a
him to
month
be the
ago,
COVID quarantine
correct.
quarterback.
And in the playoffs, you have not one game was a blowout. Like they, I tried to. Did you see me physically try to catch those words as they came out of my mouth? But I think it was playoff football, and I think that just the craziest shit happens under those lights. And I feel like I stole someone's answer, and they're mad at me.
I don't know, but I think it was. What was the question again, Jeff?
Do you think the close score was more because Buffalo wasn't playing up to their potential, or because Indy was just better than people thought they were?
I think Indy was killing it in most of the first half. I put on the Facebooks, the Bills are being super outcoached right now. And then Frank Reich made a couple of silly decisions, which in hindsight, maybe they're silly decisions, but at the game, I understand they're going for the touchdown on fourth down there. Mm-hmm. So most of the first half, the Bills were outcoached, and they had the Bills on the run. The defense was scrambling big time. A lot of running the ball too, which wasn't working. I don't know. We'll get to the play call later. I don't hate the running of the ball as much as they did. It wasn't executed well. Is the issue. But to answer your question, I think it was more the Colts is killing it.
Mike?
I think it was just. I think for the most part for me, it was. I think I underestimated the Colts. I looked at who they played and how they didn't really beat anybody this year. Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at their schedule; it's pretty soft. They have one win versus Tennessee and one win versus Green Bay, and the rest of it looked like okay. They beat a bunch of nobodies. It's like Alabama going in and playing FCS schools and Citadel and all that, and I think that made it easy for, at least personally for me, to underestimate what kind of team they were, and I think Indianapolis was better than thought they were.
Derek called last, so he wants to have something good here.
This is where I totally walk back my apology and I say the Bills didn't play as well as they should have. At the play calling, you gave them a little bit more credit for running the football. I hated it. It was the annoyance of the day for me. I was not worried about this game at all until very, very late. But then the dumb thing that just kept happening was, that guy's gone. We're watching the national championship as this records. But I think that you do what you do best and just go do it. Don't try to cause some sort of balance because you may fear DeForest Buckner being a problem in a pass rush. You guys have faced great defensive lines all year, and you have not given a damn about it. You take good passing defenses, and you ruin their reputation. The one way, the Bills' offensive drives. What happened to them when, that dude is totally getting tossed. What happened on the Bills' scoring drives? They were throwing the football. They were moving the ball when they were throwing it effectively and getting into a rhythm in the passing game. They weren't trying to shove Josh Allen into 9 fat guys. They were just letting him rip it over and over again through the air. That was their best drives. That was their most success in the offense. And I swear to God, I think Dable was just trying to kick us in the testicles half of that game.
So I agree with a lot of what you said there in terms of when they were most effective.
I do have that said.
Okay, go ahead.
I call it a 70-30 to your question. Because 30% of this was the Colts did perform like a double-digit win team. And a lot of their decision-making and execution led them to actually losing this football game. I think if the Colts were up and the script had Buffalo behind, they would have been throwing a lot more. And I think Buffalo goes ahead and does what they have to do. But the execution on that 4th and 1, I love the play call. I love the decision by Reich. Go for it. Get there, get your points. But then immediately I knew Buffalo has one thing and one thing to do only. Answer back, get yours, take the lead, double dip, grab some points after the half. They did.
And you look at how the game played out after that, it's hard to fault Reich's decision because had Indy scored the touchdown there and the game played out roughly as it did, obviously that becomes a huge score in a game that ends up being decided by a doinked field goal essentially at the end by Blankenship. The only caveat I would give to, I would agree that they were much more effective, the Bills were, when they were just letting Josh take the reins and throw the ball over the yard. That 96-yard drive to end the first half, that may be, I don't even know
Gabriel
about maybe,
Davis
that
drive.
is the most impressive offensive drive by the Buffalo Bills this year. Not just because of just how impressive a lot of the throws were and the catches by Davis, both of them. I didn't think he got that second one on first look, and he definitely did, but it was one of those things in real time, like there's no way he got that second foot in, but he sure did drag it just inside. The Colts were so dominant in time of possession in the first half. I think Dable just felt like he had to run the ball, and maybe he didn't have to run 3 straight run plays on 2 drives. That was the only thing I didn't like.
Twice.
Go
they
run
ran
twice
the ball
and maybe
3 times in a row.
LA
They punted.
take him
like
if
Josh.
that's what's going to keep happening.
Yeah, that was 2 3 and outs that didn't need to be. Sorry, Jeff. That was
No,
my-
you're right, and I would have liked to have seen at least maybe one of those runs is Josh on a bootleg. You give him like an option, like he had on the shot put pass to
He's a
Nas.
runner.
touchdown.
No, he's a passer.
Kevin Harlan, an all-time great, one of the best in any sports in terms of broadcasting. But I feel like he felt like he had to get the run game established to at least keep some defenders off the field a little bit. He felt like he could maybe run the ball, get first downs with it at least, and give his defense a breather, because it felt like in the first half you could see it really wearing on some of those guys on the defense as the half went on. Indy was consistently snapping the ball with under 5 seconds on the play clock.
Or under 0 seconds.
All I want to say about that, and yes, it did happen a couple times. The play clock hit 0. You can watch any NFL game if you wanted to, and you can stare at that play clock. Every single team in the NFL gets away with that, and we only noticed it because it was happening against the Bills. You can be mad at it if you want.
12 times.
It always happens.
Those refs were dead to me at the 7th play of the freaking game. When that T.Y. Hilton catch on the sideline by one referee was called a completion when it hit the fucking ground behind him.
Rolling 6 feet behind his ass.
They were dead to me immediately.
Yeah,
I'm like, all right, fuck the refs at this point. Nope, not banking on anything there. So that one was it. I was surprised there were less penalties called than I was thinking there were going to be. And that 96-yard drive, Bills got 3 reviews to go their way. So the play that had the elephant in the room, I'm not so mad about that one when we get to that.
I asked my I got a buddy. I was gonna call him tonight, but we had a previous interview, another interview. I was gonna call him in, and he's a diehard Colts fan. And I was watching the game with Mike here. He was over watching it, and I said to him after that drive ended, I wonder how Colts fans feel right now. Do they feel screwed after this drive? Do they feel that they got handed some shit? But all 3 calls, I think, were very good. I think they were the right call on all 3 of them. But I was curious to see what he thought, and he said it was definitely disheartening and took the wind out of my sails. But I don't have a problem with any of the calls. I thought that was really curious,
Especially because they were called catches and then reviewed to be confirmed.
Yeah.
If they called Davis out of bounds and then reviewed it, and
Especially
said, "Wait a
on
minute,"
that second
feels
one.
like more of
And-
a shafting than.
And I've said this past. We've talked about this in the past a few weeks ago. Like Josh Allen on the sidelines. How many of those throws have you seen him miss this season? Even when you're like that, it doesn't look anywhere close in live action. And then you see the replays, like, holy shit, how did they pull this off? It's when he's scrambling to the sidelines, it throws at the very last second. I think it's done. And then you got Twinkle Toes Davis out there, like, what? I couldn't believe it. That's one of the best skills he's acquired over the offseason.
Gabriel Davis learning from Diggs is going to be the best part of his career.
Is there any receiver on this team that hasn't made a catch like that right
Everyone
up on the
has.
sidelines, both toes down?
Cole Beasley going up the ladder with one hand. And
Yeah,
bringing it in
Diggs,
himself.
Beasley, Davis. I don't think Isaiah McKenzie's had a chance yet, but I think one of the biggest things that affected the Bills' offense this week was they didn't have Isaiah McKenzie available to him. He was out with a shoulder injury. I didn't realize till after the game. Me and Mike were like, "Where the fuck's Isaiah McKenzie?" I didn't look at the inactives to start the game, but I think he's such a huge part of the offense, especially in the run game, because he's out there and they put him in any kind of motion. You have to account for that dude. At any point he's on the field, I think he was one of the biggest losses to the offense. I think that's a big reason why they kind of struggled.
He was missing, and they might have used Beasley in some of those kind of gadgety situations if he was more healthy.
Yeah.
But you're not going to try to use Beasley on end arounds and give him any
Also,
additional contact that
as
you
he's
have
limping
to.
off the field
And same
between
too,
plays.
it's same too. You John Brown, you could probably use the same thing, but he's not probably 100% healthy. Probably worried to use him.
I mean, the only receiver who was maybe 100 or close to 100% healthy was Davis. Diggs wasn't 100% healthy
and
either.
you can see Diggs was hurt.
Yeah.
Diggs, he got that oblique thing going on apparently, and you can see there was one time he got up awkwardly, he's doing everything he could to not use his right arm. I think it was a couple times. He's not totally healthy. He's hurting.
I saw some people talking about the Bills not deserving to win because they
heard
didn't
the same
score
thing at
more
work.
points. There was a team that didn't deserve to win on Sunday. It's the team that got stopped on 4th and goal, that did not convert a 2-point conversion, that hit the upright from a 33-yard field goal, that completely mismanaged timeouts. What kind of challenge was that in the third quarter?
Yeah,
what are
I
you
know.
thinking? That was Bill Belichick
else.
throw the phone. That
And they
was
had a
terrible
long
challenge.
time to look at
They
it
go into the
themselves.
end of the
Yeah.
game with 1 timeout when they, God knows, they could have used 3 as they're trying to. Phillip Rivers couldn't even make the end zone with the Hail Mary. They could have used a timeout to move the ball up. There was a team that deserved to lose on Sunday. It was not the Buffalo Bills.
And the other thing about that is timeouts really were so much of a difference in this game, especially toward the end there. I mean, you had Reich having none of them left, and Rivers had to just airmail 2 straight passes to cause a Hail Mary that would not have had a chance. And then, meanwhile, Sean McDermott weaponizes his
And
at
gets
the
it
end.
back.
And gets it back, and then weaponizes it again.
Yes.
Like, he was a terror in those last 20 seconds to the
That
Colts.
was not just because you have a Patriots fan on the podcast later, but that was very Bill Belichick coaching in those final 2 minutes, using those timeouts the way that he did, getting the referees to review that. I know they said it was called from upstairs. I don't believe a
already
fucking
ran a
second
play.
of
No
that.
way.
The Colts already
That's
ran a
bullshit
play.
that they were reviewing that before the
They
timeout.
gave that timeout back because of the decision.
Yeah.
And you said that you weren't worried about the 3 because of what happened later, or whatever. The fumble call, or lack thereof. Can we all agree that was a fumble?
100%.
I don't think there's an objective
I have
fan who
not seen
disagrees.
one pundit. Forget objective fan. I have not seen one pundit from sports talk show hosts to former football players to current football players to Gene Steratore to Mike Pereira. I did not find one tweet, post, opinion, or video clip where anyone said that wasn't a fumble. There were Colts fans on Twitter like, I don't get it. I'm grateful for the call, but I don't get how that wasn't a fumble.
I'm just eternally grateful it didn't decide the game or have a hand in keeping the
Damn,
game
did
alive.
it feel like it was going to be
Because
the
if
way that it
Indy
defined
had
the game because of the Bills.
gotten in the field goal range and sent the game to overtime, or if Rivers had somehow gotten that ball to the goal line and we got Hail Mary twice in 2 consecutive losses. I mean, Buffalo would have stormed the field and they would have had a Black Hawk helicopter Al Riveron off of the logo on
I
center
said
field.
if we had lost the game because of that, there'd been a fucking mutiny in Buffalo.
What a power move by the local eye care facility, whose name I won't say because my wife works for an eye doctor that is not them. But what a power move for them to offer free LASIK surgery.
I
Al
think,
Riveron.
I think the league just didn't want the game to end that way. It's all I could think about, right?
Yeah, someone hit the Buffalo Wild Wings button.
Right. I
Maybe.
want this game to overtime.
Now, that said, I was it was a fumble, but the thing is the problem here was, again, the refs were dead to me, and the call on the field was not a fumble.
Correct. No, the call on the field was a fumble. The blue beanbag came out. So when he says that the play was ruled down by contact, the blue beanbag came out.
no, it
The
ended up
official ruling
being-
before the replay, though. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, it ended up being that they decided that the call on the field was not a fumble.
Yeah.
One of the referees did throw the beanbag, but that was not their official decision.
Yeah. Just like the guy that said that there was a catch on the sideline when the ball hit the fucking ground.
that too.
At least they didn't have to review that one.
They didn't have to review that one because the rest of them went, dog.
The other ref,
dog, that was not a
The other ref came over. He's like, "You see that ball over there, 15 yards rolling away? That's the one you think that Ty is handing to you right now."
God, laughing too. Did you see him? He got up with a grin on his face.
Oh
like,
my
okay.
God. Like, how the
That was like
fuck?
the
Ty's
Yankees.
catch radius is fantastic. It's not that fucking good.
That was like
Man,
the
how
Yankees.
the fuck do you think that was a fucking completion?
Who was it that reached his glove into the stands and very clearly missed the ball, and the umpire called out, and he just tucked his glove to his chest and ran to the dugout? That was a Yankees player, and I don't remember. It was he playing
I don't
shortstop.
remember.
It just goes to the third base sideline or third baseline, reaches into the crowd, nowhere near the ball, acts like he plucked the ball and held his glove up. The umpire calls out. He tucked the glove against his chest and ran back to the dugout, and that was forever and out because there wasn't review at the time.
And funny enough, only 3 plays later did I finally actually go, oh, fuck. The Hail Mary, that was the only time that my heart sank because I thought, oh, my God, we're going to lose because of the memes.
I was sitting there, and Rivers, obviously, his arm's kind of shot. You see the ball come up short of the 3-yard line. And Micah Hyde, who had learned from experience volleyball spiking that ball into the ground.
Running start.
Yeah.
He stayed back
Get
on
up.
purpose.
Yeah, he stayed back, and he wanted that ball to go down so he could exactly pinpoint where he was going.
But it felt like it would have been, and maybe I'm forever the pessimist because the last Buffalo playoff when I was 4 years old. So I have no reason ever in my memory as a real sports fan to think this is going to happen positively.
And again, to bookend, like it could have bookended losses with Hail
Yeah,
Marys.
you would have lost only to Hail Marys or on or crazy weird rescheduled games. Like the most possible thing ever would be going 13-3 and losing for the second straight time on a Hail Mary because the referees didn't call a fumble.
See, I'm very scared of the memes, and that was that. And that was when my heart sunk. I'm like, oh God, because I was cool as a cucumber, very annoyed with Dable all game. And the Colts had the lead. Nah, I'm good. Bills take it back. I'm good. Go up 24-10. I'm feeling real good. 2 very quick drives, mostly on the run. Feeling less good, but good. They still have the lead. They still have an offense. Josh Allen takes a 30-yard sack and fumbles.
That was the good feeling gone for me.
Let's talk about that.
That was the moment for me, even though the Bills recovered because they were in field goal range. And
it's unfortunately that small, smooth-brained moment. And in the playoffs, you need next to none of them.
What a play by Daryl Johnson. Sorry.
It's
What
a great play to get back on that football.
He may have saved the game.
He did, I think, because he would have gotten the ball back with 2.5 minutes left and more timeouts. And we talk, and we'll talk about this more later too. Josh doesn't make as many of those mistakes as he used to, where he tries to extend a play by throwing across his body. But this is the running quarterback equivalent of trying too hard to make something happen.
Yes.
I know you don't want to take a sack there, but the same way you do when you're rolling away and nobody's open, you just have to kind of admit defeat and go down on first contact there. Or at least not try to go further backwards, stumbling, holding the ball out like LaShawn McCoy.
Minimize your loss.
Just take the loss, live another play.
It's a better loss if, you still have the football.
Yeah.
And when he loses it, everyone's heart sinks. But again, I knew there was still a little too much time left. Say the Colts do go back and they score a touchdown off of that turnover. I'm still doing okay. Why? The Bills have an elite passing offense, and I think that they could have took it back because they had their timeouts. It's not like Indy did. I think the Bills would have still been fine. It was the memes that made me go, oh God.
The Buffalo defense in the fourth quarter, too, felt like it kind of just rolled over and played dead a little bit. You talked about those 2 Indy drives. I wasn't so much annoyed that Indy scored because it's not like they have a lack of offensive weapons. Pittman was fantastic.
Yes.
Doyle was pretty good. You have T.Y. Hilton. You have Jonathan
unreal.
Taylor. You have Mo Alley Cox been a nice play in the red zone. What annoyed me was how easy it felt that Indy was scoring in that fourth quarter. It felt like they moved the ball right down the field. And I don't know if that was because Rivers played well. It's maybe the best game he's played all year. He felt like he was really accurate.
There were some chunky run plays on those drives.
The 2 biggies.
Yep.
So maybe that's my segue into a little bit of what's coming up, too, is I'm a little concerned that they were so easily gashed apart in that fourth quarter.
So I walked out of the room briefly and I missed part of this. The Bills defense, I thought they played a decent game. They didn't play great. They got gashed. They couldn't cover this freaking tight end. It was pissing me off.
Any tight ends, really.
I remember go ahead, Mike.
Well, they struggled against tight ends, good tight ends all year.
At least they're not playing one next week.
I was watching it, Mike, so at one point I was like, who the fuck's covering this guy? But anyways, there were a lot of plays that the Colts players just made. There was 4 or 5 catches that Bills defenders had their hands on the ball, in the receiver's hands, or making a play on the ball. They got some kind of piece of it, and the Colts players just had stronger hands and made the play. So the defense kind of did their thing, but the Colts players just made plays.
They were
That's the thing. Sometimes teams are going to make plays against you. It happens. We talk about this with the Sabres too. Every player's not going to be perfect. Other teams are NFL athletes. Are going to make plays against you. That's why I think defense did their job. But the Colts players at the end of the day just kind of made some nice plays on balls.
Some of those catches, the Bills were flirting with PI. They were early, and they were hooking armpits, and they were hooking the neck. And that one Jack Doyle catch, that literally he had to reach his arms through like an arm bar and bring the ball into his chest. I agree. The Bills were trying to be all over it. And, of course, I was being sarcastic when I said at least they don't have to worry about a good tight end this upcoming week. What concerns me, and we don't have to transition yet, is the 2 things the Bills struggle with might be the 2 things that Baltimore does best.
And trade, Edmonds had to pick it right. His hands and he dropped. Right? There's things. I'm not worried about the Ravens.
Well, the Bills' pass rush was non-existent, which seems to concern a lot of people who don't realize that the Colts might have the best interior line. Their guards and center might be the best in the NFL.
Well, they've got a statue as a quarterback. They need it.
Yeah, and nobody's gotten to Phillip Rivers. He's been, sacked 13 times this year? 13 or 14 all year?
Yeah.
Nobody got to him. And the Bills' pass rush hasn't been elite all year. Excuse me, when they did get in the backfield, they did make some disruptions when they did get there, even though Rivers didn't get sacked. They were able to force him into some bad throws. They were able to force him into some bad throws and some missed throws, but I don't think that that's going to be as much of a concern the Ravens offensive line against the pass rush. But what it does concern me is that the concerns that the Bills have had on defense all year were the glaring concerns on Saturday. Stopping the run, stopping a tight end down the seam. That has been their issue. Like you said, Mike, they've had trouble with tight ends. Everyone knows they've had trouble against the run.
And that's
the disconcerting part, is that those things are still the glaring issues. Thankfully, a decent team still only amounted 24 points. And 24 points is not going to beat the Bills. It's not. The Bills' offense stunk for most of the game Saturday. They put up 27.
It's about time.
And if the Ravens think they're going to roll into Buffalo and score 20 points like they did against Tennessee, they're not winning. They're not winning.
The Bills used to be the equivalent of blackjack. 21 is bust. If the defense allowed 21, you're done. Like, Buffalo's done. Sorry.
Yeah, but 21
nice
is
try.
not busting in blackjack. That's winning, Derek.
No, over 21.
Okay. So you're good.
So, again, the Bills' defense had to make sure that they wouldn't bust in a game of blackjack
Derek's always
for them to have a chance.
Yeah.
Now, what you just said, 24 points doesn't do it against the Bills. Isn't that fucking refreshing?
Yeah.
Because their
About
offense
time.
was not firing on all cylinders. And 27 is more than the Colts. The Titans scored more than the who else? The
Steelers when it
and
Washington
mattered.
football team.
So he,
Right,
The
that's what I
Steelers
mean.
when it mattered.
So here's my opinion on the Ravens and the Ravens game, upcoming great Ravens game. And it might be a little naive to an extent, but tell me if you think I'm wrong. But let me hear me out real quick. The Ravens and Bills played last year in a really close game, and the Bills' offense stunk last year, and they almost pulled it out. It was a very close game. I think it was a bad weather game. None that matters. But the Bills have improved tenfold, I think, over the Ravens have this past offseason, and the Ravens just struggled against one of the worst defenses in the league and put up 20 points. I'm not saying I'm not worried about the Ravens. Lamar Jackson's always a threat. If you can make a throw, I feel good about it. If you can contain him, I feel great about it. But that's why I feel okay. I feel better about this game than I did the Colts game. I was worried all week the Bills were going to lose to the Colts. Like that, they're a good team. This is kind of the game the Bills would lose, you know. So I was worried about the Colts all week long. But I feel better about the Ravens game for those reasons. But there's always Lamar Jackson in your head, you know?
I have the box score from last year. You remember the score?
It was like 17-14 or something. Like
24-17 Ravens.
that. Yeah.
Blackjack.
Lamar Jackson did throw for 3 touchdowns, but he only had 145 yards passing. How many yards did he rush for?
Probably also over 100.
I don't think it was that many.
They contained Lamar.
Yeah.
He ran the ball 11 times for 40 yards.
The big play that broke them was a blown assignment by Poyer
By whom? On whom? Because you're right.
on the tight end.
Who was it?
I think that one was that Hurst.
Hayden Hurst,
Yes,
correct.
I thought
3
I-
receptions for 73 yards and a TD. The long, 61 yards.
Yep, that was
And
the
that was the tight
backbreaker.
end down the seam that beat him. So, like, you look at this game, and this, what are the Ravens going to do differently? Because you had Ingram run the ball 15 times for 50 yards. Just go ahead and insert Dobbins there. Lamar Jackson, 11 for 40. Their leading receiver, Hayden Hurst, 3 for 73. Next leading receiver, Ingram, 3 for 29. Next leading receiver, Mark Andrews, 1 for 14. This is still the Ravens. Am I wrong? This is still the Ravens' plan, right?
It's still their plan.
I know they have. I know
they
they
do have
have.
Marquise Brown.
They have Hollywood
Right.
outside. He didn't do much this past
He
week.
didn't do
though.
much, but it takes just one big play to ruin everything.
But the big play was a 49-yard run by Lamar Jackson.
Yes.
That was the big play
So-
that you have to avoid.
No
Yeah.
man coverage.
I will say that, yeah, no, it's going
As soon as you turn your back, to play man, he's going to cook you.
Yes. So I think that ultimately the two Bills' weaknesses are going to play perfectly into Baltimore's, which is the run game being a problem stopping again, and tight ends. They don't do very well against them overall. That said, what you said earlier, Steve, about the Bills, Baltimore has to keep up. Because they have shown that they don't give a damn what your defensive ranking is, what your defensive talent is. They have the weapons. They have the all-pro talent. I said all-pro. God damn it, that feels great to say. As an all-pro quarterback, 2 all-pro wide receivers, they have the tools to make you have to keep up. And a run-first team will have a problem doing that. They're going to probably take Indy's script and try to make the same thing happen. Run the ball, own time of possession, try to frig them over on the field position, and try to get out of there. Because if the Bills need to, and the game script asks them to start throwing and throwing well guess what? It's going to happen.
Yeah, they could
You're not going to stop it.
Yeah, I think that's right.
The part that would concern me if Baltimore takes Indy's game plan, I think back to segue into other things too. early in the season, Baltimore, without Lamar Jackson, without a ton of starters, ended up playing a game against Pittsburgh that they barely lost with RG3 and then Trace McSorley. And then after that game, Pittsburgh on a short week went and lost to Washington. I remember Chase Young running off that football field after they beat the 11-0 Pittsburgh Steelers saying, Baltimore showed us how to beat Pittsburgh. Baltimore is an incredibly well-coached and very disciplined football team. They're not going to make the mistakes that Indy did that allowed Buffalo to capitalize. They're not going to mismanage timeouts on bad challenges. They are not going to make it easy for Buffalo. If the concern is that Indy's plan, Justin talked about how well coached Indy's Indy's game plan, keeping Josh Allen off the field is the only way at this point, really, to beat the Buffalo Bills, unless you are a team like Kansas City or Green Bay who can maybe play offense with them at that level. So if Baltimore can run the ball, which I think they can, and they've been much, much better. There was a midway point in the season where people thought Greg Roman should be fired. They have solved a lot of the issues with that offense there. It is going to take a complete team effort from Buffalo's defense. It isn't just hand the ball to J.K. Dobbins and let's see where it goes. Every play in that running offense, there are 2 or 3 or 4 different options. And every single one of them has to be contained, because whether or not you think Lamar Jackson is better than Josh Allen, and this is a Buffalo podcast, so I know we all slant towards Josh being a much better quarterback, a much better passer. I would say he's a better passer, maybe not a better athlete. But Lamar Jackson is still going to, if you give him options to throw to Hollywood Brown, who had an okay game on Sunday. It wasn't excellent, but he's been pretty good the second half of the season, or throw to Mark Andrews, who's back healthy after missing some time. If you miscontain, if you let these guys get into open space, you might make the right play 25 times in a row. 26th time, someone breaks a play for 50 yards. They're going to have to be disciplined, like, religiously. This is a big test of Leslie Frazier's defense and everything here coming up.
Now, the other thing about that is I got to look into this and say not everything about the discipline of Baltimore is correct, because unlike Indianapolis, we mentioned the pass rush could probably get to Lamar Jackson and probably cause a fumble or something of the sort because of the fact that you're not playing Indy's offensive line this time. You can force Lamar Jackson into a bad throw and an ugly INT.
Did you watch the game Sunday?
I did.
The pick he threw?
Yeah.
He wasn't forced into that throw.
No, I know.
Terrible throw.
It was a terrible throw, and he makes those sometimes.
He had a clean pocket and underthrew his receiver by 4 yards and put it 3 yards to the left. It looked like he was throwing it to the DB, and I'm not saying he's not a good passer, but he
misses throws sometimes.
That was a bad miss for no reason.
He misses throws sometimes, and you could even pressure him into missing more. So it is going to have to require discipline on defense. That is the big thing. I will say, it's okay if you let up the 5 or 6 yard gain, as long as you don't let Lamar bust off the 48. As long as you don't let up the 20-yarder that chunks and flips the field on you. You have to make sure that you are disciplined. I trust Jerry Hughes fully in this scenario because he has done well against the read option. Arizona is the game tape you need to study, and study it hard.
Seattle too.
Or
Seattle
or last year Baltimore.
They didn't let Russell get out at all.
Yeah. Or last year Baltimore. Like, those are the two that you need to study and study hard because of the fact that you could see how it needs to be played. Jerry Hughes does a great job of it. It was Addison getting cooked several times. The goal line touchdown from Murray in particular against Arizona, where he crashed and there was nothing you could do. And there's going to be times where Lamar's just going to beat you off of sheer athleticism.
Yeah.
It's all going to come down to this. Can the Bills' offense pressure them into having to throw more?
Yeah, Baltimore does not play well from behind.
No.
I forget who said it on Twitter today, but someone I follow tweeted that, the Bills usually like to defer to the second half. If you win the coin toss, do you think about just trying to take the ball first and put Baltimore right behind the 8 ball?
I think that was the first time Lamar Jackson and the Ravens have come back from a 10-point deficit in like 3 years. Like when this is the first time when they were down 10-0 to Tennessee, the first time they've won in Lamar Jackson's tenure, and I think it extends beyond that. I might have even heard that's like a 5-year-old stat. So, I mean, obviously they did it last week, so they could easily do it again, but that's a 1 in whatever record when falling behind by 10 points or more.
I mean, fuck me, the Bills have collapsed plenty of leads this year, so it's realistic. But, again, yeah, Jeff, I'm with you on that. Like, if you win the coin toss, get the ball and force a game script.
You'll have fans in the crowd. be aggressive. Get them involved early.
Aggressive. One thing about the Ravens.
Get
too,
after it.
One thing about the Ravens is they blitz the most out of any team in the league. And do you know which quarterback is best against the blitz in the league? Anyone?
I have a guess.
Who?
I think his name is Josh Allen.
That's the guy.
yeah.
Yeah. So Josh Allen is the best against the blitz in the league.
That was the Diggs touchdown.
So what happened? Yeah. So
they brought the house, and I'm like, oh, make it.
Did you hear about the Diggs touchdown? They talked about it in the interview after that was the play they called in the huddle. He canceled to a run because they didn't get the look they wanted. But then the Colts flipped to the look they were looking for, and he put the play back into effect, and then they tossed a touchdown.
Linda. Or was that Philip Rivers using Linda? I don't know. Listen, Linda.
He has like 15 kids. I'm sure one of them is probably called Linda.
I mean,
Linda.
All the audibles are just Philip Rivers' kids' names in it.
one other look back
Linda,
to
I
this
need
Bills
you to pick
game.
up Luis.
There's one other factor to this game, which ended up being a deciding factor. A play in this game that deserves some recognition.
Missed field goal.
What?
No, go ahead.
The other end.
Tyler Bass
Drilling.
plus.
Yeah.
That ball was still rising when it went through the uprights.
I wish that was the NBC broadcast where they gave you the good from.
Ready for your other crazy stat? And this was like not at all official, but if it's at all anything close to true, the longest field goal made to that end of the stadium after November by any kicker ever.
Longest postseason field goal ever by a rookie kicker.
If that's
But
true,
just in
that's
Bill's
baller.
Stadium,
And that's
because that
that's
includes
that's
every
crazy,
December every December kick ever attempted to that end of the stadium, going back to Rich Stadium and Bill's Stadium.
There were some
and
calm
Ralph
wins,
Wilson
though.
Stadium.
That helps.
There wasn't a lot of wind, but just that
It does help.
But for
I was
those
talking to
that,
my wife
Steve
about it. I'm
Tasker
like,
advertised way worse weather than
a
that.
frozen football with my toes frozen. The last thing I want to do is thump it 52 yards,
and those that don't remember, that was the closed end of the stadium.
where the winds would swirl.
Right,
Where the
where
winds
the winds
swirl,
get
yeah.
caught and swirl.
He thumped that ball.
Yeah,
and I was nervous because I said to my wife, I'm like, he likes the left hash, and that was from the right hash, and he buried it. That was a no doubter.
Remember,
no
like
doubter.
2 weeks in the year, we're sitting here. Were people in here concerned about Tyler
People
Bass?
wanted them cut week 1.
broke records this year. Hasn't missed since like week 2 or 3.
No.
Well, whatever.
Legitimately has not missed since the game that he had to attempt 8 field goals.
Yeah.
That was the Jets.
where he ended up
Second Jets
getting
game.
6 of them and winning, even though he missed 2.
He was the scoring.
yes,
He missed 2 and he was the scoring.
And-
he
and-
hasn't missed since.
and past Steve Christie for most points
That's
in a
one-
season all time.
One thing that's
which Reed Ferguson was really excited about.
What a redemption arc for him, though. Like, seriously, from where he was before that Jets game, seriously, that was the game he needed. Just get out there, start kicking it. We need you. You need you at this point. Trial by proxy. Just keep going, keep kicking them, keep kicking them, keep kicking them. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And that probably was the confidence that he needed, the fact that he was the scoring in that game.
You know what? One thing I love about this coaching staff too is how patient they are with their players.
Yes.
They didn't give up on Taylor Bass right away when everyone was calling for a set, and it would have been easy for him to do. They didn't give up on Josh Allen after last season when he wasn't, second year in a row, 2 full seasons as at last place in the league completion percentage. They didn't give up on these guys, and even AJ Klein this year was terrible start. Worked with him, let him figure it out. Ended up being like, holy shit. What the fuck? Total brain fart. Milano's coming back. Now we're gonna take AJ Klein. Are you kidding me? Like, that's kind of crazy. So I love the coaching staff's patience with players, and I love where they got this team's head at. You see the post game speech thing when McDermott was pumped, and he was talking, and he said it wasn't perfect, and then he said we got work to do, and then the team, they all acknowledged it, like, in almost like a way of excitement. Like, they knew that they need to work on things. Hear that? I thought it was something cool to hear out of the team. It was twice. And it seemed like they knew they weren't great, and they knew they had a lot to work on, and they acknowledged it in like almost an excited kind of way. If you saw the video, you know what I mean.
That's the group that they have, and that's why I was the cocky bitch, is because of the fact that they are that disciplined and that well-trained and that excited to put the work in for everything. I mean, that quote from Allen about Juju Smith-Schuster in that Pittsburgh game, and saying, we'll put in the fucking work. He was not kidding. That is the message that is always about with this team. And I love what their makeup is, and I am excited to see what is next. I'm not as scared of Baltimore, funny enough, than I am of a potential snowstorm.
Do you think that this game was another wake-up call like the Arizona game was, where
Might have been.
where they lost against Arizona as a wake-up call? We're not unbeatable, even though they won this time. It's a wake-up call and saying, "Hey, this was a little close."
After the last 3 weeks, it was a sign of mortality, and they knew that. You could clearly tell the way Hyde played that Hail Mary. He was like, "Not again. We are not doing this again. No way,
Just
no how."
Spiked that thing.
Spiked that thing. There
Like
was
a
no
volleyball player.
there was no interception attempt. There was no chance.
Even though the interception would have been easy because it was right in his numbers.
he was hunting for that ball. He was ready, and the play call probably was, "I'm finding this football. You guys make sure to be ready for a tackle, but I'm finding the freaking ball. Everyone else find a person. I'm finding the ball."
Yeah, it looked like the receiver
looked
was
like it
going
was
to be
a call.
short.
It looked like it was a call.
Yeah.
I think they all had a pretty good idea too of how far they thought Rivers could actually throw it. He actually got it a little bit further than I thought he could.
Yeah, he got
but they
close to the goal
definitely
line.
had
A tip
Hyde
up and
back
there's
there.
disaster waiting.
Right, and that's why I think Hyde was so sure to get on top of that ball. Because, yeah, you could probably catch it. Heaven forbid you don't catch it. It hits off your hands, goes into the end zone.
It's like Tom Jackson said in the NFL primetime of old, "What are you going to do? Knock it down." That's it. Always. And I think, though, that, again, everything about the Bills, it's coming back. That one fear comes back to me. What are they going to do in potentially bad weather? I'm not petrified of it, but everything about a snowy game screams Ravens.
Especially this weekend.
Miss me with the weather. Both teams got to deal with it. The Bills just handle the Patriots in an
Bills-
all-running game in a terrible snow game with 45-mile-per-hour winds. Both teams. If you lose in the snow, then you're not the better team. Sorry, you're out of the playoffs.
The Bills
I don't
play.
Miss me with the weather shit.
I
In
don't
my
know.
opinion.
Oh, no. Now
the weather
I'm
will play to the
engaged.
script
Here
of
we
the
go.
game. If both
Sounds
teams,
like a fucking excuse.
If
Oh,
both
it snowed and we lost,
no,
and it
if
sucks.
both
It's
teams
not gonna
are
be an
forced to run,
excuse.
that's going to be absolutely playing right into Baltimore.
It plays into Baltimore's game. And now,
100%.
Wait, so no, wait. So the snow's going to immediately neutralize an agile Lamar Jackson.
no.
No, it's going to help him.
How? He totally loses all his footing.
No, I don't agree.
You know
for a
who
second.
it favors? Gus Edwards.
Yeah.
Gus Edwards is just a bus.
He's a tank.
He's a tank, and that is exactly what Snow does. The Bills play a speed and style of game that it will slow their offense down. Every fucking time that there's been precipitation in the forecast, the Bills' offense has gone ahead and tripped over their leg and stumbled and maybe even pissed on their leg.
For a quarter or a half, and then they figure
Or
it
the
out.
whole game.
Yeah,
Kansas
Tennessee
City.
game.
Tennessee and Kansas City.
Yeah.
I don't care. Lamar Jackson got to throw the ball in
So
bad weather. He
say-
can't throw the
But
ball
he
in good
won't
weather.
have to. That's
So,
the point.
yeah,
Because
they'll
he
just
can
run
hand
it.
it to Dobbins and Edwards and keep it himself.
The
and they'll
Bills
run for
played the same
250
style of
yards.
game a few months ago, and they ended up winning. They ran
mean,
for
but they
200
weren't playing
they
the
ran for
top
200
rushing.
plus
They
yards.
weren't playing the top rushing team in the league.
Yeah, but I mean, they ran for the Bills. I'm saying the Bills in turn ran for like 200 plus yards
They
as
did.
well and won the game.
And they were a timely play away from not winning that football game.
Thanks to
But they
Justin
won.
Zimmer. Yeah.
But
the
they won.
other concern, and we could maybe work
So
this in here.
spare me on that.
The-
Save me the weather.
No,
thing.
Talk
Yeah,
about
weather shit still.
the power run game. No Zach Moss out for the playoffs.
Yeah, well, they got at Williams guy. I forget his first
Bring
name.
up Christian Wade. If one more person says
I think I
that,
hear they're working out Devontae Freeman.
they cannot
He
bring
can't play in
Christian
time.
Wade
COVID
up.
protocols. He can't even be on the roster.
That's true.
Yeah, but that dude for Indy, the left tackle,
Oh,
is playing for
Yeah,
Green
Jared
Bay this
Bell
week.
here is playing for Green Bay. So wow,
He's the first
Freaking
player
cat.
ever to play a postseason game for two different teams.
Well,
in one season.
I think that maybe because he's already being tested. Like he was.
Well, I know. I'm just saying it's crazy that because he was on the practice squad, he was eligible to be signed by the Packers.
You know, it pisses me off too. In the city, we all rave around. Oh, play us into the snow in the winter in a windy
know
home
who
stadium.
says that
In the windy home stadium. Here it is.
If it
And we're
wasn't
like,
Baltimore,
oh,
Justin, I would
it's
agree
gonna
with you.
snow Saturday.
No. You
Baltimore's
see who-
going to beat the Bills by running all over them.
I gotta run
The
hot
Bills
here,
are going to
and I love
beat
it.
Baltimore by throwing all over them. If the Bills cannot throw all over them because of 40-mile-an-hour winds
Josh
and
Allen wears
snow,
shorts in the cold, and he's got huge hands.
but we
You know
haven't
who
seen him
fucking
do
says
it.
that shit? The person who's half naked and all blitzed and not able to pay attention to the fucking game.
can
You know who
never-
that is? That's a fan of Rasmus Ristolainen getting 30 minutes a game.
I like it.
He's got his Corsi chart tattooed on his shoulder.
See, the thing is, the Bills used to be built for
Derek, how's your
this
heart
run
racing?
game.
They're not anymore.
They're not
They
built
are
for
a
that
passing
run game.
offense.
I mean, you can say, okay, they have Williams who ran like a tank against
Right.
Miami, but
Is he even
Singletary
gonna
hasn't
play?
really shown that. That's
Never
his
has
game.
shown that.
So really, you're built around the pass now.
Yeah.
You have not right now, 4 receivers that you can go out there and are weapons on every play. That But anytime there's weather, all of a sudden it's like the ball doesn't come out right. Nobody can hold on to the ball. Hands don't work. Feet don't work.
And the Ravens will just hand it off for 7 yards to carry. Because Indianapolis did that without bad weather and just...
Yeah.
Unless you want to see how Knox and Gilliam can run the ball.
Like I said, the recipe
exactly.
for the Bills to win. Justin, take the Ravens out of it. The recipe for the Bills to win is to throw the ball. You said yourself you got mad that they were
apparently you
running
can't throw the ball in snow. You can't throw the ball in snow?
That's absolutely a lie in the
It's
NFL.
illegal. It's against the rules. You can't throw the ball in football?
How did the Bills win the snowball against Indy? That's right, a 25-yard run by LaShawn
Well,
McCoy.
to be
You
fair
have
to
to
that
run the
game,
ball.
they had Nathan Peterman, so they didn't really have a quarterback.
Didn't Davis Webb play that game?
Joe Webb.
Joe Webb, that's
Webb.
right. Yeah,
A
sorry.
legend.
Joe Webb finished that game.
Yes.
Noted wide receiver, Joe Webb.
Special team expert.
But again, this team is a track meet. That is their offense. And I said it. How many times did I say it? It's up to the offense to cause a game script for Baltimore.
But,
you know how they're not going to have that game script? By having the fucking blizzard. And you know what happens when you've got mouth breather wanting all of the snow when your team is very conducive to having success on a soft track? It's the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I want a dome for the Bills.
Oh,
Give it
God,
to
here
me.
we go.
You want to know why?
I didn't
Because
until-
let's see the fucking future. The Bills are that.
Allen in the Dome is a beast this year.
Let's go.
He's unbelievable. in domes
Unbelievable.
this
Why?
year.
Because they're a track meet team.
Yeah.
You can't track meet in the snow.
And I'm not even worried about some snow. If it snows
It's the
before the
wind,
game,
not the
if it
snow.
flurries during the game, if it's snowing sideways, I'm real nervous.
I'm very nervous at
That's
that.
different.
Bills
If
fans
if it's a
historically wanted
flurry-
snow
if
because
it's
we
a
couldn't
flurry-
throw the ball.
If it's a
Yes.
flurry, I'm okay. But everyone's all hyped up because Steve Tasker said might be chilly in the promo. Chilly does not mean snowy. It just means cold. And I'm okay with cold. I am not okay with a fucking storm.
Right.
Jeez.
And I think if it's storming, the Ravens come in and say, we don't need to change anything.
I would
gonna get
rather get
Derek
sodomized
If
by
it's-
Ristolainen and shoving a puck hard around the glass
He's so excited
than
about
I would
Ristolainen
about
tonight.
dealing with having people say that, oh, the weather's not going to be a big
If the
deal.
weather
I'm
is
not saying-
awful, Justin, the Ravens change nothing about their game plan. If the weather is awful, the Bills have to change their whole game plan.
If the weather's awful, it eliminates their biggest weapon, Lamar Jackson.
I disagree. I think it makes them more dangerous.
This is silly to me.
He doesn't have to throw the ball.
It's just evidence, Justin. You said when the weather was bad, the Bills ran for 200 yards, and so did the Patriots. Because when the weather's bad, teams run the
That's
ball.
what the Bills won. The
I
Bills
know.
won.
Against a bad team.
The Bills
I'm
won.
not impressed
Against
by
a
the Bills
bad
beating the
team.
Patriots
I don't
this
care.
year.
They won.
Against a bad
They
team.
won in a game where they had to change their game plan in a power running offense.
Against a
and
bad
they won.
team.
Huh?
And they proved it later
against
in the
a
season.
good
They would
rushing
have beat them no
against
matter
a
what.
good rushing team. They were a
that
good rushing team all year long.
that same bad team, when the weather was perfect, the Bills boat raced
Shit
them.
pumped them.
yeah, I understand
They
that.
could have hung up 60 if they wanted to.
They should have. That would have been
They
great.
should have. They just decided to do it against
They decided
Miami in a game that actually mattered to Miami. They decided
Everyone's
to.
just over glorifying the snow. Like, oh my god, it's gonna fucking snow. It's gonna be.
We'll see what the forecast gives, but
Like,
if there is
Right now,
if there's a
37
prob-
and cloudy, but I did
you
hear
know
on
what?
the morning
You know
show.
what? The thing is, good
lake
football
effect
teams
snow in the
fucking
forecast.
figure it out.
Sure.
If they lose, they lose. They weren't the better
Sure.
team. Sorry.
I said it before the playoffs started.
guy's gonna fucking
the weather,
snow.
the weather would be my biggest concern about beating the Bills because of the fact that every time that it has been a bad weather game, or even half of a game, they
The
stumble.
passing offense
Yeah,
stinks,
and
and they
you know
need to
what?
pass.
And if it snows, they got to adjust to a short passing game. Get them, and when the Bills figure out their offense, and they get to the short rhythm passing game, and they just take over games.
Say
hope
it
you're
again,
right.
Steve.
I hope you're right.
Steve, say it again.
I hope
If the weather is any different, what changes?
the Bills' game plan, not the Ravens.
Thank you.
I hope it's
Also,
snows
the
so they
Ravens'
win.
defense is way better than the Patriots' defense up front,
Agreed.
which is another big.
That's
If
why
the Bills had
Tennessee only scored 13.
If the Bills had a better running game, I don't think this would even be a discussion
Correct.
point. Because
Correct.
I thought the Bills
Nearly
could run
as
the
worried
ball.
about the snow as the rest of you.
the Bills
apparently.
couldn't get a first down running the ball in 3 straight plays. They couldn't.
Yeah.
Well, they shouldn't have
Twice.
run the ball in
When
3
no one
straight
sees
plays,
them
but-
running it for
I'm
3
not
straight
saying
plays.
you
Nobody expects that
Right.
anymore out of them.
I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I'm not that worried about it, and I think it's being
I hope
over.
you're right.
I think it's being over glorified, like in a city where it was like play us in the playoffs in the snow, or they get proud. Like,
I mean, wasn't
whatever.
that one of the major talking points for Josh? Is like he had to draft because he had big hands he could throw in the snow.
Yeah, you throw
Well,
his
it's
bad with the
proven not
quarterback.
to be true so far.
Well,
Like,
they can.
I
they
appreciate
can
Derek
walk that
saying
back.
That
that
hasn't
our
been
samples
proven
have not
anything
been.
yet.
How many? How many big
we're
snow
talking
games has he
mostly
played?
rain games.
Yep.
I mean, to be fair, the Bills
Throwing in the
haven't played in
rain.
very many snow games because they've been eliminated in October.
Throwing in the
last 15
rain is
years.
different than throwing in the snow. The ball's not as wet in
Yeah,
the snow.
that's true.
You can keep it drier much easier. Like I'm not not worried about it that much.
I just hope you're right.
It has to be in a, I will say, It has to be a certain amount of snow for me to really be worried.
Yep.
I can't wait till it snows. I'm gonna fucking text you all game long and nag the.
I'd
hassle the
rather
shit out of you.
apologize to
Justin's
Jerry
halftime
Coleman
text,
than
man,
have
it sure
to
sounds like we're
fucking
doing
deal with the
24 to nothing.
snowstorm.
If the Bills are winning, then you can give me all the shit you want. But if they're losing, then we're just going to point at you and say this is your fault.
Whatever.
I'd rather try to apologize to Jerry Coleman than I would have to deal with a fucking snowstorm here.
They'll have to get in line for that today.
Oh, I got.
line that no
today,
one's actually
it's,
in,
It's
but-
fresh. I got blocked by him today. He DM'd me the usual
saw.
thing, and yep, there. That's a scumbag.
That was everyone's realization when Cleveland was winning yesterday. It was like, oh, that guy's back.
Oh
now,
fuck, that guy's
officially.
back.
Sorry to our listeners for having to listen to that.
The can I take a moment on the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Oh, hang on. Can I just, before we go into that game,
Yeah.
the meme of a game that was on Nickelodeon.
Wait a minute. Before we do all this,
Oh, we should have the interview.
we've got an interview tonight.
Yeah, that's
Perfect.
true.
Derek, lead it up.
Good evening, sir.
How are you now?
Good. How are you now?
Not so bad.
Not so bad.
Nice.
Yes. No.
I'll take a puppers.
There you go. Welcome back to the 716 Sports Podcast, and we've got my man, a quarterbacks guru, known Letterkenny enthusiast, Scrubs auto retweeter, and of course, member of SB Nation, Inside the Pylon, and everything about quarterbacks, and the only Patriots fan that I can empathize with, Mark Schofield, joining us on the pod. Mark, how are you now?
How are you now? I'm doing well, gentlemen. It's stunning how often I hear that phrase that I'm the only Patriots fan people can tolerate. And I get it. I'm proud of that fact. I'm going to put it on a business card or something. But good to be here with you guys tonight. Excited to talk a little, I guess we'll talk, I don't know, national championship game. Nothing else going on, right?
No, nothing around here.
Not for the Patriots anyway.
Oh,
nothing Patriots
Steve. I do have those questions, but we could bury those for later. But for now, there's a quarterback that you have had your brain picked on over and over and over again over the last couple of years, who is playing in the divisional round. His name is Josh Allen, and your video breakdowns on Twitter have been incredible all throughout the year, Mark. So Josh Allen, from year 1 to year 2, now year 3, that we're seeing a development unlike any other with what he has been able to do. And what have your thoughts been of his season so far, where he's been at an MVP caliber level?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could be anything but impressed with Josh Allen and what he's done this year. When you look at the strides he's made, the ways the defenses have had to adjust how they play him. You know, I'm getting ready for their game against the Baltimore Ravens. I've been looking through his film throughout this entire season. During the course of this afternoon, I'm seeing what defenses have tried against him, whether it's zone coverages, whether it's simulated pressures, mug looks. They're throwing the book at him right now, and nothing's really working. I mean, you look at that Week 17 game against the Miami Dolphins. They were doing a bunch of different things to try to confuse him. They couldn't do it. Indianapolis tried some things early in the wild card game. None of it really worked. And I think that drive before halftime, they were backed up. You just get the stop on 4th and goal. You might have seen teams be conservative in that situation, but they let him throw. They trusted him. And that shows you exactly how this organization, how Brian Dable, how Sean McDermott feel about him. They trust him in a moment like that to not make a big mistake. And really, if you think about the Bills coming into this season, that was the book on them, right? The defense is good. They added Stephon Diggs. They've got some pieces around the quarterback. But this is a quarterback that's still making those big mistakes. He's not making them right now. And he's grown in so many ways, and it's hard not to be excited about where he is right now as a QB.
Kind of building off of looking at Josh in the divisional round, really feels like we're going through a bit of a quarterback changing of the guard in the AFC. No Phillip Rivers, no Ben Roethlisberger, Brady in the NFC, Manning retired. Instead, now you got 3 quarterbacks from the class of 2018 and 1 from the class of 2017. Weird to think of Patrick Mahomes as the elder statesman of the AFC playoff quarterbacks. It feels like these may be teams and quarterbacks who are set to really dominate for the foreseeable future. These 4 teams that are coming in here to a divisional weekend here in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel that way. And I think, I saw that by age, Baker's the oldest of the 4. Obviously, Mahomes came out a year before the other 3 guys. it's a young group, but it's an extremely talented group. I think when you look at, obviously we've talked about Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, what he can do, Baker Mayfield, the way he's grown this year, and Kevin Stefanski's offense, obviously Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's a solid group of 4 quarterbacks. And then maybe you expand it a bit in the AFC. You start thinking about Deshaun Watson, whether he's in Houston next year or if he moves to, say, the Miami Dolphins, the New York Jets. Obviously, Bills fans and Patriots fans would hate to see that, having to see Deshaun Watson twice a year in addition to everything else you're going to get. But the AFC is in the hands of the young quarterbacks. And I think it's exciting as somebody that obviously studies the position, builds his career on studying quarterbacks. It's good to see this next class of passers, make it into the playoffs and establish themselves as the next generation of QBs.
So you talked about the mistakes, and when I think about the mistakes that Josh Allen makes, previously it was the throws across the body, like the Hail Marys when it wasn't called for, and he's rolling to the right, and you're just praying that it's not a turnover. All of a sudden this year, he's rolling to the right and making throws that few quarterbacks in NFL history are able to make, going back across his body to Stephon Diggs, who settled down in between the numbers, the throws along the sidelines to Gabriel Davis this past week. When he's rolling out, it even looks on the telecast like he's throwing the ball away. And these throws last year were interceptions. This year, they are ridiculous completions. How does that change? What has changed in the ability of Josh Allen to throw the ball against his body while rolling out in terrible positions to throw a football, to have him put it on a rope where it needs to be for completions this year?
It's been interesting as we start thinking about the next head coach hiring cycle. And there's been a lot of people that have looked at Brian Daboll and said, because of what he's done with Josh Allen, he's surely going to get a head coaching job. And yes, Brian Daboll has done some great things with Josh Allen, but I don't think we can overstate the work that Josh has done himself, the work that he's done with Jordan Palmer in the offseason, reworking his mechanics. When he made a couple of those throws against the Colts, Nora Princiotti highlighted how he did a lot of work throwing in the sand to try to, refine the upper body mechanics. So they will always be in a good position to make throws with velocity, with accuracy, even if the lower body is not settled. And you see that show up on film. You saw that against the Colts. I mean, perhaps my 2 favorite throws of Allen from this entire season. One was a touchdown to Diggs in week 16 when he was rolling left against the flow of a play against the Patriots, the one where he found Stephon Diggs in the corner of the end zone, where everything is working against you and he still gets velocity and placement on the throw. And then a throw he made against the Miami Dolphins, again, rolling to his left to hit John Brown along the left sideline. And when you see that throw, you see the consciousness that he has to get that left shoulder as he's rolling to his left, pointed and turned towards the target before making the throw. Sometimes right-handed quarterbacks, especially one the arm that Josh Allen has, think they don't need to be right mechanically. They can just, make that throw while they're moving. They don't have to, get that shoulder pointed at the target. But Allen went through that extra step to do that. That's mechanically sound throwing that you want to see from him. And the upper body mechanics have been so solid this year, even when moving around. And so, the work that he's done is paying off for him. It's paying off on these throws, and we're seeing it week after week.
Mark, we could talk about Josh Allen and poke your brain on him all day, but you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and be the lazy person at this point and say, if you're not following him on Twitter already, follow him at Mark Schofield. He does video breakdowns, and he's done a lot of Josh Allen content this year. So I want to shift the focus a little bit here, and the rest of the division, it's a little murky what the waters are, given Sam Darnold's struggles in New York, the Patriots becoming an absolute question mark, and of course the Dolphins may or may not acquire Deshaun Watson, but if they don't, Tua Tagovailoa is kind of a question mark in and of itself with his first season with a very peak and valley type of year that may have been reminiscent to Josh Allen in different senses.
Yeah, I mean, the division's 3 big question marks after Buffalo. We'll start with the Dolphins because that's kind of where you ended. Who knows what they're going to do? We all woke up Sunday to the same stories that Deshaun might be trying to force his way out of Houston. You start thinking about potential trading partners, Jacksonville perhaps, the Jets perhaps. And then a lot of people mention the Miami Dolphins because there seems to be an inkling that they're not happy with Tua right now. I think that's a bit of an overreaction. Like you said, if teams are going to learn things from Josh Allen, one of the things I hope they would learn would be patience with your young quarterback. Don't just immediately cut bait. Give him a chance to develop. Tua's had half of a season. I would like to see Miami give him another year or two to figure out what they have in him. But Deshaun Watson's an elite talent. And if you have the opportunity to acquire a player like that at the most important position in the game, it's hard to say no. And then for the Jets, you wonder what they'll do. Maybe they're going to draft a guy that's playing tonight in Justin Fields, maybe Zach Wilson, maybe whoever they hire as the head coach. Could it be Doug Peterson, who just was let go by the Eagles? There's a relationship between him and Joe Douglas, the general manager. They could go in a number of different directions. Maybe they stay with Sam Darnold. Who knows what they're going to do? And yes, the Patriots. Can they draft somebody at 15? Maybe it's the other quarterback playing tonight, Mac Jones from Alabama. Could he end up in New England? He seems like the type of quarterback, doesn't make a lot of mistakes, more of a conservative type of guy, doesn't turn the ball over. He sort of seems like he would be the ideal Patriots quarterback, given some of the guys they've drafted before, like Jimmy Garoppolo. So a lot of question marks. And you have three teams that need to figure out the most important position in football. The Buffalo Bills don't. That puts them in the driver's seat, I think, for the years to come.
You mentioned a couple of the names that'll be at the top of the draft in Fields and Wilson, Jones, of course, Trevor Lawrence up there as well. I know there's a whole offseason still with a lot of film study to be going through on a lot of these guys, but are there other quarterbacks maybe sliding a little bit under the radar that are interesting prospects to you, that whether they're later in day one or maybe even day 2 or day 3 picks, that you wouldn't look past here at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think the name I was very curious about was the Cincinnati kid Desmond Ridder, but he just announced that he's going to be coming back to school. So you sort of take him off the board. Then you've got Florida quarterback Kyle Trask that has gotten, he's a Heisman finalist. He's gotten a lot of buzz. And so there are a lot of people thinking that maybe he could be somebody that can make a name for himself. He's going to have an opportunity down at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama in a couple of weeks to perhaps show that he's the best quarterback down there. Another quarterback that I'm intrigued to see how he does at the Senior Bowl is Jamie Newman. He opted out due to COVID-19. He was at Wake Forest, decided to transfer to Georgia, then opted out. So Georgia had to go in a different direction quarterback for them. I'm curious to see if his athleticism translates perhaps to a more modern NFL offense. Ian Book, another quarterback who's going to be down there, the Notre Dame kid. He could perhaps, make a little noise down in Mobile. And then Kellen Mond from Texas A&M. Having gotten a chance to see a little bit of him, study a little bit of him so far. I've liked some of what I've seen there. So, we know about the names at the top. Obviously, the guys you mentioned, Trey Lance from North Dakota State. But there's a group of quarterbacks that are going to be down in Mobile that I think might be worth paying attention to.
Mark, I promise you that we'd get this one up, at it, and out of here so that you can enjoy the rest of the national championship. I really think, though, that we're going to have to pick your brain a little bit more as the off season comes, because right now we got to ride the high. Mark, I need your help with something, though, real quick. What's it like having a team play in the divisional round? I need your advice.
Well, gentlemen, they do say that divisional round weekend is the best weekend of the football year because you get 4 games. You get the Final Four in each conference. Now, luckily for you guys, that's a Saturday game, right?
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
Saturday night, yeah.
So you don't have to go through. There's a couple of drawbacks if your team's playing on Sunday. One, there's the whole anticipation thing. And 2, let's be honest, you might have an adult beverage or 2. You might have a puppers or 2 on Saturday night. You don't want to wake up Sunday nervous, anxious, kind of, dehydrated a bit, shall we say, kind of under the weather, shall we say, a little bit of the stomach flu bug, and then have to, watch your team play a football game. So it's great that you guys get to go Saturday night. You want to have that long build up. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Divisional round games, they can go a little longer. Remember to hydrate, and good luck, gentlemen.
Yeah, we prefer to save our stomach troubles from during the game. We don't want to have them the day before.
No, you don't want that at all. You don't want to go into the game banged up on Sunday.
Yeah, no, that's it's going to be a toughie. But Mark, I'm going to ask you, and remember, you've got a reputation here as the Patriots fan that I go to. What's the prediction for Bills Ravens on Saturday?
I mean, I think this is going to be a close game. Las Vegas numbers I saw had this as the closest line of the week. Last I saw it was Baltimore -2 or something like that. So, that does seem to be like the closest game of the week, at least according to Vegas. This game, I think, is going to come down to the Bills' safeties. And Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, for my money, are the best safety tandem in the league. When you talk about facing the Ravens, there are things you have to deal with from a run game perspective, all the counter bash, the stuff that they do with Lamar Jackson. That puts stress to get safeties involved in run fits. And when you start asking safeties to get aggressive downhill, stop the run, we all know that opens you up to the play action passing game. If this were a team that had questionable safety play, I'd be worried from Buffalo's perspective. But those two guys are so good at what they do. I've seen them over the years frustrate the Patriots, frustrate Tom Brady, be disciplined with their assignments, not get sucked down against play action, come down when they need you to stop the run. I think those guys are going to play a big part in stopping Baltimore, and I think Buffalo wins this game.
There we go. That's what I appreciate about you, man. Go kick back, get a puppers.
Gonna have a puppers. That's what I appreciate about you, fellas.
That's Mark Schofield. He's my dude. Inside the Pylon, SB Nation, Pat's Pulpit. Follow him on Twitter for his breakdowns as well, at Mark Schofield. Thanks, brother.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a good one.
And thanks to Mark for taking his time here on National Championship Monday to talk to us here about quarterbacks, the Bills, the NFL, upcoming prospects. A great talk. Be sure to go ahead and check him out on his Twitter feed. A lot of good content always rolling through there. Hope to have him back on at some point. Two things that happened in the NFL over the weekend I want to talk about that didn't involve the Bills game.
Oh, man.
But ready. Let's go in order that they happened.
Oh, I am ready for this one.
So I know that I watched about a quarter and a half on it before I went out to have dinner for my mother's birthday yesterday. Well, went out, quote unquote, went and picked up food and took it to her house for her. And Derek, I'm getting the impression that you watched it. Anyone else watch the Nickelodeon broadcast of the Saints-Bears game yesterday?
Yeah, for
What are the
about
thoughts?
10 minutes.
Oh, boy, those poor children.
Forced to watch the Bears.
Let's have a slime cannon end zone.
Hang on, I was cool with a lot of what Nickelodeon did to try to get kids engaged, but the main problem was that they had to still also broadcast the Bears.
Yeah, it wasn't a fun game. You know what would have actually been a fun... I didn't want the Bills game on there, but man, imagine if they got Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and all that nonsense, all that scoring.
It was made fun because they had voting for the Nickelodeon Valuable Player and
MVP.
The MVP by a landslide was the least deserving person on the football.
Well, as Nickelodeon should know.
It's on every stats page.
Oh my God. Pro Football Reference put the award in there.
In orange.
In orange. I was pissing myself.
I made sure Mitch face as he would have been voted as a boat.
I did my civic duty and I voted for Mitchell Trubisky. I made sure, yes, to log on to a kid's website to vote for the MVP for the memes. And what better way could you ever have to end a football game where Mitch Trubisky is the valuable player of that one than Jimmy Graham doing his old thing from the Saints against the Saints and then literally fucking off.
He didn't even stop.
He didn't.
He caught the ball,
down the tunnel.
put it down, and walked off.
It's been a pleasure.
Wait, what happened?
Oh, you didn't
Last
see
play
this?
of the game, Jimmy Graham catches a touchdown and
One-handed
walks
pass
off the
go.
field.
Did not pass go. Did not collect $200.
I don't even think that was intended for him either.
No, he just
He just took it from the receiver crossing behind him.
Oh my God!
I mean, to be fair, after what Wims did on that trick play end around where he dropped it in a bucket and he dropped it anyway, I wouldn't have trusted a Bears receiver to catch that ball either.
I'm going to show Justin in real time.
So you got
this
that. You've
reaction
got a
of this
second
play.
Bears receiver punching Chauncey
So
Gardner-Johnson
here
in
we
the
go.
face. while
Oh
he's
yeah,
wearing
that
a
happened
helmet.
too. Oh, and Cordell Patterson dropping an F-bomb.
F-bomb live on Nickelodeon. Someone edited the SpongeBob dolphin noise over it
That's
on
perfect.
Twitter. It's wonderful.
Sailor mouth.
Yeah.
right?
He
He
Potty
just
mouth.
takes off.
How the
He gone.
He go.
He gone.
Incredible.
And he's
What
a free
better
agent,
way?
so he's gone.
You know, I
Oh,
was,
that's 100%
What better way to
indicative of
end
him
that
leaving the Bears.
What better way to end that game? Because I forgot about the first half and the end of that where a player gets ejected for punching.
Yep.
And then an F-bomb is dropped.
Live on Nickelodeon.
Live on Nickelodeon with 6 seconds left, no less. and everything that happens. That is the perfect ending to the meme of a game. And then what does Pittsburgh Cleveland just start off with?
Yeah, they got the old Super Bowl 48 snap over Peyton Manning's head intro. Pouncey over Roethlisberger's head, first play fumble. Another, it's 28-0 Cleveland. Before you even if you were casually watching the game, you might even turn the game on by that point.
My kids go to bed at 8:30. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So they turn on the TV at 8 o'clock. Their shows are like 25 minutes long, kid shows. It actually started at 7:55. So at 8:20, I hit the number 2 on my remote and I hit OK. Now I thought the game started at 8:20. I turned it on at 8:20. The score was already 41-0. Okay, a little bit of overreaction there, but I thought the Browns returned the opening kickoff, and then I opened the Twitter machine and was nope, this is way worse.
I got home about half an hour after kickoff, and it was 28-0.
Do you remember when in the Avengers when they're floating on the boat and Mark Ruffalo, or in this case Bruce Banner, it's like, we're stuck here on a floating vessel and it takes off to fly. He's like, this is way worse. That's kind of how I felt about that first play, because I just assumed that Cleveland returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown because there was like 14:25 to go.
Yeah, and there's no offensive
it was
stats loaded in StatCast. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, and then I realized what happened on the first play. And you talk about a tone setter, because the Broncos never recovered from that first play that went over Peyton Manning's head, and the Steelers never recovered from that first
It's a
play.
shame that Cleveland had to beat them, because you know who I wouldn't be worried about playing in a desert, in a snowstorm, on a boat, in a tornado,
with 10 players on the field. With 10 players on the field.
Because they are bad.
He's bad.
They are the only team to go 11-0 and not make the divisional round. It's very difficult to do.
I sent to the Slack, what is he doing? Because that pick that he threw, the first pick that he threw, what is he doing? Like, he's rolling to the right, about to get sacked, and he literally just, the best sound effect that I could add to that throw is, because he literally just flicked his arm. The ball went about 6 yards, but it went about 30 feet in the air.
Unfortunately, the receiver was only 4 yards in front of it.
They went
not 30 feet tall.
They're just crazy.
They went 11-0 and then dropped 5 of their last 6. What frauds!
And the only game that they won, Indy handed them on a platter. Indy was way ahead in that game.
They were beating them down, and then they let them back.
Yep.
But the Browns is the Browns. When will he learn to stop giving
He's handing out free bulletin
motivation?
board material, and I appreciate it.
I mean, sure.
What's the first thing Baker said when he ran off the field? The Browns are the Browns.
Sure, it's not his fault that Pouncey fucked up a snap and Ben played bad, but it's clearly motivating teams. He's got him knocked senseless in the game after us.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it in the Cincinnati game on that Monday, how excited Von Bell was to hit him coming across the middle, forced that fumble. Every single Cleveland defensive back who hit him yesterday got up like they won the fucking lottery.
Yeah. Like, dude can't tell me he's not motivating teams to beat them. Like he's a free agent, and I said I wouldn't. Like, I love Juju. I think he's great. I want to like him.
He talked himself to a 1-year deal at this point.
But I loved it before the TikTok shit and the dancing on the logo.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the logo thing. I hated what happened after the game in Tennessee where they went out the logo and started stomping on it. That's not cool. Like, it sounds dumb and like sport tribalism, but it's just pointless and silly and like why?
They did do it because
it's not
Tennessee had done it on their logo when they played earlier this year.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I take it back.
They viewed it as
that was
retribution.
Fair is fair.
But still, Tennessee should have done it either.
Listen.
Like, it's dumb. It's like there's no reason for it.
Even Chase Young, running off the field, coming for you, Brait. He torched him.
But anyway,
he
it's
played
like
so well.
He's a free agent. He's a good player, but if he's got to stop doing that.
After all this shit, he's getting a 1-year deal.
But the Bills brought it up before they even got out of the field. Baker's the first thing you hear when he gets off the field, and I'm sure they mentioned it before the game too. And they're in the locker room, they're doing the Corvette thing in the locker room, and they
were doing it on the sideline before the game was even over.
Everyone's saying Browns is the Browns. Sure, it wasn't.
Baker's going to be wearing a Browns is the Browns shirt walking to practice this
and they're
week.
still going. Juju saying Twitter, they're going to get smacked at him, and they might. Claypool.
Even
sorry.
better that it's someone else.
The whole
now.
team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I respect the hell out of Tomlin. I can't believe he's going for this.
I no longer respect Mike Tomlin because the last 3 or 4 years, the Steelers are just they're like the most hated team, period, based on how they act, what their players do, the hubris of their organization. They're so easy to cheer against. And, you hate to see it. You got dad dicked by Cleveland?
That's amazing. I feel good for. I know there's a lot of overlap between Buffalo residents and Eastern Ohio residents. I feel good for the Browns, and I don't think it's going to happen because I don't think Cleveland can hang with Kansas City, especially if Denzel Ward doesn't play and the secondary is that way. what I wouldn't give for a Buffalo-Cleveland AFC Championship game next week.
So it's funny because you mentioned Cleveland, and this is a personal story. I used to do golf shows around the country, and I went to a lot of major cities. I went to Columbus, then some smaller like Syracuse. I did Washington, D.C., I did Pittsburgh, I did Detroit, and we were in Cleveland in like February. The only city that I was in, and we're in a convention center, the only city I was in where more than 5% of the people are wearing sports apparel. In Cleveland, it's 75-80%. Like, we think nothing of being at a grocery store in June, seeing someone wear a Bills shirt or a Bills hat. That's not common practice for people. They wear it on game day or after game day or during the season. The number of people wearing Cleveland Browns shirts, hats, the number of people wearing Cavs gear, that was the Cavs season, but they love their sports teams. At the time, Cleveland Indians gear was all over the place because they loved their fans, and that was a very special connection. And as soon as they found out we were from Buffalo, they're like, oh, you guys are from Buffalo. You guys went to the Super Bowl 4 times. And they're the only people not to stick your nose in it about losing because they've never been.
Cleveland-
So instead of sticking your nose in the shit of losing 4 times, they're like, you guys went to the big game 4 times. And they have a respect for Buffalo and vice versa. I just wish the circumstances didn't affect who Buffalo had to play because everyone, if it wasn't the Ravens, we've been so arrogant in our picks, rightfully so, that we've picked the Bills to win almost exclusively. This is the first week. I'm nervous. And even Vegas is Baltimore -2. So
And
Is it weird that I prefer them to be the underdogs? I feel like they play better when people don't believe in them.
yes and
Yeah.
no. It's one thing to be viewed as the underdog when you're not, which I think was the case against some teams this year.
I still don't know that they're a true underdog, especially at home.
Sure.
I mean, the home team typically gets 3 points. That means they think on a neutral field, Baltimore beats them by 5. I
But
don't know how
only
I feel
2
about
home
that.
teams won this past week.
I think
New Orleans and Buffalo are the only home teams to win in the wildcard round.
Vegas is looking at how the defense played last week. I think they shored up a bit. I don't think it's as, I don't think it's going to be as bad. I think they figured it out. I think I said earlier in the year, I'm confident in the staff. They have to figure it out, and they did figure it out. I'm sure they look at the game film and sort it out for next week. I'm sure that's a big factor into the line is how they played against that
There's
team.
a significant recency bias in opening lines for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
And no matter what happens on Saturday, and I hope it's a multi-score Bills win, no matter what it is, nothing will make people remember this Bills season worse than people are going to remember that Pittsburgh game or that Seattle game on Saturday. For 2 teams that are supposed to be the pinnacles of success in the NFL, what an absolute
show up.
embarrassment.
They didn't show up. Russell Wilson at half had 6
awful.
completions.
It's awful.
Okay, you know how we mentioned earlier about the fact that the Bills had the really long sack and put them at what, second and 33?
33.
That's not even the longest second and situation
No.
of the weekend
No.
because Seattle had a second and 34.
That's right.
Truly.
Amazing.
It
From their
really
own
does.
like 3-yard line too, right? They
Yeah.
were in the shadow of their own goal line.
It feels like a little bit of a tale of 2 stories. Last thing for me before we maybe talk about a little hockey, because hockey coming up here real soon, boys.
It's coming this week.
It's coming this week.
3
It's coming real
days
soon.
from where we're recording.
2 days from
2
release date of
days
this
for the
podcast.
season, yes.
It feels
Sorry
like
about
in the
Sabres.
AFC, we talked about it a little bit with Mark. You got really young quarterbacks. In the NFC, you've got the opposite story. You've got young
Goff's
Jared
the
Goff
youngest.
with 1 thumb, and then Brady, Breeze, and Rodgers.
And not to mention, Jared Goff is older than all of the AFC quarterbacks left.
He was a
That's also not
2015 draft?
20. He's 26 years old, and that makes him older than all of the AFC quarterbacks that are up.
And all of the
Let's
AFC
not
quarterbacks
forget-
are better than him.
That's
Let's not
nuts.
forget all three of the 4 NFC quarterbacks have won a Super Bowl, and all 4 have been.
Yeah. But you know what? I'll take the youth over experience at this point. What is more exciting other than Aaron Rodgers being an absolute dick?
Is it wrong to think that maybe in a few years we're going to think about this Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson draft class the same way people, maybe our parents' generation, thinks about the Marino Kelly draft?
Imagine if Darnold figures it out somewhere else.
I think it's reasonable that he does.
Imagine if Rosen gets a chance somewhere and turns out being decent. Like it is like it's like the NHL 2003 draft where it's like it has a potential.
I'm
but Rosen he hasn't got a chance. Come on,
I'm okay
He
with
might not
calling
get
him
one.
dead in
he
the
might
water.
not. No,
But not every one of those guys has to hit for it to be true, though. I mean, Ken O'Brien wasn't a massive success. There was guys
But
in
he
that
still
draft.
wasn't a failure.
Well, true, but I bet you I don't remember all the guys, but there were certainly other guys. If you have 3 guys, I'm assuming that at some point in their careers, Allen, Jackson, and Mayfield, and this is bold, I think all 3 of those guys will be a quarterback in a Super Bowl. I'm not saying all 3 of them will win it. I think all 3 of those guys will make a Super Bowl. And if you get 3 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks in the first 10,
I'll
25
say-
picks at the first draft.
I'll say two of them.
Josh and Lamar.
I certainly hope Josh. Watch that be the thing that curses us.
Monkey's paw curls.
Oh God.
Well, let's just say let's wait to have sustained. Let's wait to see if they have sustained success, because Lamar Jackson is like he's a gimmicky quarterback, and sometimes teams figure them out.
But he was also an NFL MVP.
Mike Vick was only effective for so long until after he went to jail.
That was kind of his own fault.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
it's only a matter of time before teams figure that out. I mean, the league's trending that way now. I'm just like, we'll see. He's got to figure out to pass the ball more consistently to be great.
Yeah, he's got to improve his accuracy.
He's a scary player,
downfield.
but he's not a great
if he
quarterback.
had an accuracy jump that Josh did.
Right.
That's the thing with him is I don't think he's at his ceiling. I don't think Josh is either. For the record, I don't think we've seen the best.
See what Jordan Palmer said?
No.
Said the sky is the limit for Josh Allen. He hasn't touched it. Whatever he wants to do, he can do. One of the best athletes he's ever seen.
Yeah.
It feels like he plays like it more often than not.
And you think about the size, 6'5", 237, and the way he runs and moves, and can throw if he needs to. It's like, this is kind of crazy.
When he kept that ball and did the sweep to the right, there was no chance he wasn't scoring.
Oh yeah,
He could have been stacked up by two linebackers and a defensive end. He was getting in the end zone.
We didn't spend nearly enough time talking about that shot put play.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
the fact that he has the ability, just the pure arm strength, to desperation going to the ground, not off either foot, not
Knuckleball.
really throwing it, just push it that
Yeah,
far.
if you know baseball grips, when you throw a knuckleball, you don't throw it, you push it. You don't even. There's not even a snap of the elbow. It's all like a piston when you throw a
Yeah.
knuckleball. That's exactly what he
pushed
did.
it forward.
Yep.
You know
I
what the
could throw
most
one.
messed up part about that play is? They blocked it as a pass. Nobody went upfield. And they went with the deep fake so bad that it required Allen to shot put it like that.
While falling,
While falling.
he looked like Elf. I love the memes.
Oh man, this team is so fun. And again, nothing is going to kill my high like Sabres Twitter.
Okay, let's have one more
Oh
positive.
boy,
Let's have one more positive thing before we.
Yes.
Before we
Close
fall into
this
the
out.
pits of despair.
Okay, if we think Josh Allen hasn't hit his ceiling, we know he passed for 4,544 yards this season. Do you know how many yards he rushed for?
he didn't touch 1,000.
I'm going to
No.
say 570.
No,
650.
no, you're way too high. This
$1, Bob.
season. 421 yards. That
Oh,
means
that's
total
5,000
I feel like
yards.
every single
That's
one of those
just
yards was
under
impactful.
5,000 yards.
Yeah.
It's almost smoking.
And I'm going to say I think if he keeps progressing the way he is, he could pass for that at points in his career.
I think a 5,000-yard season is far from out of the question. And he wouldn't even have to play much better. He might have hit that if he just had to play the entirety of the last
Correct.
2 games. I mean,
He would have hit that if it wasn't a 45-mile-per-hour winds in the New England game.
yeah. I mean, he's within. If he's got the Matthew Stafford dome season, he gets 5,000 yards. If he gets to play at home
in
games
his
indoors,
sleep. Yep.
and another one at Minnesota.
You know what? I was about to go off because of something Justin said, but no, I'm going to let
No.
him fall in the pits of despair
Come
now.
on.
Your
All
turn.
right.
All
Now
right,
I'm
so
ready.
I'll put it on the tee for you because I heard you talk about it earlier, so I already know what's bothering you this afternoon.
I'm livid too. Justin and I were talking about this yesterday.
So the Buffalo Sabres have their first regular season game coming up on Thursday. NHL hockey so close to back. And if it wasn't for the fact the Bills were playing in the playoffs, we probably would have spent an entire hour and a half show just talking about that. The lead gets buried a little bit on the hockey front. We'll get more and more Sabres focus really as the season goes on. The talk of the town in the hockey front here over the last couple of days isn't so much that there's a game coming up. It isn't even about Jack Eichel's ridiculous hair in his picture this year. It is about
hair.
choices that are being made with regards to the lines. And now Cousins and Quinn are over here from their exploits with Team Canada. And at least today, and who knows where these will all settle, Jeff Skinner skating on the 4th line. Of course, everyone besides themselves at the concept that your $9 million winger will be relegated to the 4th line, calling for Ralph Kruger's head, saying Kruger hates Skinner. Someone talk them down off the ledge, please. Justin.
You want to know what I want to what I think someone's got to play there. And if it's not Jeff Skinner, it's Victor Olofsson. And Victor Olofsson was not good 5-on-5. And if anyone needs to help more, 5-on-5, it's Victor Olofsson. Put him with Eric Stahl and Sam Reinhart. Jeff Skinner should be able to score at least 20 goals with those guys. He's a pure goal scorer. I don't know. Me and Steve together got in an argument on Twitter with two Sabres Twitter talking heads about we wanted to put Jeff Skinner with Jack Eichel last year. And it was totally it could never happen. Spread the scoring throughout the lineup because what they're doing now can't be can't be met or passed. And now the Sabres are trying to spread the scoring through the lineup, and now it's a big fucking deal.
And someone even quoted how well Skinner played with so-and-so and so-and-so at the beginning of training camp. There was clearly chemistry there. Why split it up? That was my exact argument last year. To a fucking T. Hey, we saw Jack and Jeff play together. It went really well. They scored lots of goals. No, put Skinner on a different line so some of those goals show up somewhere else. They put Skinner on a different line and the goals evaporated. But I'm an idiot for suggesting that they should play together and have something that worked be sustained. They skated together once in practice, meaning him and Eric Stahl, and now it's stupid that he takes him off his line. What are we doing?
Also,
it's the same argument.
Real quick, I don't think anyone envisioned Skinner being put with actually Vlad Sobotka last year.
Also, to be fair,
Let's be fair about that. Now, after having said that, continue. Go off, King.
First of all, there's a lot of things we've said about Vlad Sobotka, but he is way better at hockey than Cody Eakin.
Oh God, here we go.
Eakin scored in scrimmage.
In pockets and certain kinds of style, yeah, he's better than Cody Eakin, but nobody killed offense better than Sobotka did.
Cody Eakin's not an offensive player.
Yeah, but he's not a black hole either. Vlad Sobotka was a talent in killing any possession.
The guy literally stays employed.
And
in the
now
league
we've
for his
talked too
defensive
much
skills.
about Vlad Sobotka. I'm moving on.
The guy literally stays employed in the NHL because of its defensive skill. He's not here to score. He's here to stop players from scoring. When you're out there every shift to stop players from scoring, exclusively, you're going to get scored on. You're going to have negative numbers. You're not going to stop star players every single time you're on the ice. I just fucking hate these stupid analytics, at least charts, these shot charts. Oh, there's more red than blue on here. Like these guys just deployed to stop defense, to good teams. Like, he's going to get scored on when he's on the ice. But hang on, finish talking about Jeff Skinner.
Yep.
Let's talk about the timing. We're worried about practice lines. We're talking about practice.
Not a game.
Let's talk about the timing of this.
Preach.
All right, so there wasn't time. So Olofsson's just coming back, all right? He hasn't had time to skate with these lines. He was rotated in for rotated in and then a scrimmage. And Tage balled out with Eichel in them. So Tage is there. Tage takes that spot. We've seen Skinner with Hall, with Reinhardt and Stahl, and they played well. Maybe they were just looking at Olofsson with Reinhardt and Stahl. It's still training camp. They're still trying to figure it out. It's the practice. Like, they're still trying to figure out their lines. Let's just wait. Everyone's just. I threw some shade on Twitter. Like, there's so many professional coaches on Twitter. The timing of it makes sense to me. Like, they're just looking at the guy on the wing, even if it is permanent. Whatever. I mean,
You got a like from a professional hockey coach. By
As
the
a
way.
matter of
I
fact,
did.
to extend on that, they're still figuring things out. We don't know what that third line's going to look like for Skinner. Is Cousins going to be on there? Is it going to be Sheehan on the third line as the center and Cousins on there at the wing, and then Eakin's the fourth liner with Reeder and Okposo? Is Lazar a rotational player? Is Lazar the third line center? We don't know what it's going to look like. So that's the thing that people need to calm down about right now is nothing is decided yet.
Kruger, we talked about it briefly with Chris Baker. They've got a lot of weird pieces that shouldn't really. They got a lot of,
and they're new.
They've got a lot of squares and a lot of circular holes, And
Jack Quinn
we talked about it with Chris Baker. I almost said Kruger. That right now Kruger is just trying to throw spaghetti at a wall, see what sticks. I mean, it's still practice. I don't panic about Jeff's going to be on the fourth line, and even if he is, the guy should score 20 goals no matter who he's with. Like, I'm not worried about it. Like,
If there is a concern about Skinner scoring that much on the bottom line is that you figure the bottom line won't get nearly as he won't be on the ice as much. That would be my concern with it. If you take every other factor out of it, which you can't, but if you're just on a numbers,
That's fair. That's
you shouldn't be
very
paying a guy $9 million to play such a low percentage of the time.
I think Sabres are very much going to roll 4 lines, though.
I hope so.
But when has, especially in recent history, Sabres Twitter been known to be calm and rational about things?
Especially the last decade, yeah.
The best question of the podcast.
I mean, training camp started what, a week ago?
About
a
10
week
days,
ago. 10 days.
Because they started
This has
December
been-
30th for 31st.
Yeah, this has been a very weird offseason. The end of last season, this last calendar year has been a very weird year, basically. They haven't had much time to put things together to figure things out. Haven't even seen the product actually on the ice in a game situation, what they're actually going to put out there. But because something in practice happens, people don't like, it's the end of the world. It's overreacting. It's not even wait and see. It's we want heads.
The last time that the team was talented and you had really no first line because you didn't. Who skated on Chris Drury's ring?
Who?
Mike Greer.
Yeah.
And you would look at that and be like, why? You have Danny Briere. You have Derek Roy. You have Thomas Vanek. You have whomever, Tim Connolly. You have pick out any number of these talented offensive players.
Jochen Hesch
05-06.
probably was a chart guy.
Yeah, Hesch played with
Hesch was the OG chart guy. Hesch
you-
was Larson for our forefathers.
Did he
on
have
the
good
internet.
analytics? I feel like
So you have all these players that you would say, why would you put Mike Greer there? It worked constantly. It worked all the time. And I'm not saying that it's a matter of Skinner being on the 4th line. I'm saying Skinner just might not skate with who we think he should, but that does not mean that there won't be production. And I hope, Jeff, I hope that this team is in a place where their 3 scoring lines do get rolled to the point where Eichel's line's not playing 21 minutes a night, while the second line's playing 13 minutes a night, and the third line's playing 9 minutes a night, because then it's a concern that Skinner's out there for 9
And
minutes
if
a
you
night.
can find a way to roll your lines effectively, that's great.
If they're
I
all
would be
playing
hard-pressed to
12
find a
to
team that
15 minutes a
rolls
night,
4 lines
fine by me.
effectively. The other part is, maybe the most telling part of this is, you put Skinner on your 4th line at one practice, and his play has been such that you can mentally think that this is permanent because he hasn't played well enough. If you just look at Jess's numbers, forget who he is, forget what he's being paid. You look at what Jeff Skinner did last season, and be like, well, you can play on the 4th line. That makes sense.
Struggled to get a
The
dozen
problem
goals.
that's the bigger problem. And it's not Kruger's fault. He didn't sign the contract. It's not Kevin Adams' fault. He wasn't even employed at the time by the team, really. It's something you inherit, but it's the fact that you could say, well, he's on the 4th line and I hate it, but he was really bad. It's a worse Kyle Opozo contract. It's awful.
If there's $15 million being misplayed here on 2 players,
How
that
bad
is
can you say bad?
that is egregious cap mismanagement. The other thing though is this. I don't think that Skinner ends up on the 4th line ultimately when training camp ends and the regular season begins. I think he ends up on 3rd line minutes. He also has power play time, and he's going to be relied on that second unit to be able to get some goals for you. This is a team that has some more balance, and I think with more balance will come more of Jeff Skinner's scoring prowess, because he shot a career worst shooting percentage. That is not normally his style. Goals that would normally go in would just end up just not happening for him. He created great chances still. He just wasn't hammering them home. That probably changes in what was probably an anomaly of a year. He'll be fine. I think that it's an overreaction, and Mike asked the best question of all of us here with Sabres Twitter and rationality. I think that this is really about calming down, let the season start. If he's on the 4th line in the first game, I'm going to start scratching my head. If he's on the 4th line for an extended amount of time, I'm going to start asking questions. But I don't think
Can I change
that happens.
If he's on the 4th line not succeeding. If he's on the 4th line getting a point a night, an assist, a goal here and there,
Oh, yeah.
then we don't scratch our heads. We say, well, yeah, it's not ideal for a $9 million player, but the production's there.
Don't fix what's not broken.
Yeah, if they're winning and if he's contributing, 3/4 of a point a night on average, we're not going to
Even half a point on those minutes is really good.
And we sit here, we dog on Sabres Twitter a lot, and they have good reason to be, but it's like the team has been frustrating as shit for the past decade, if not a little less maybe. So I get it, but I just hate the stuff on there where like the big people on there who just
The loudest voices.
The loudest voices, and it's like there's a reason you're not a professional head coach or general manager. Like, I just think it's just like Kruger didn't learn anything from last year. Like, who the fuck are you? You're the guy. This guy just managed the teams in the biggest league in the world overseas. And does both. Like, this guy knows more about hockey than you can ever think of.
Taylor Hall loves him.
This dude knows more than hockey than you can imagine knowing about hockey. All right, and you're gonna say he hasn't learned anything from last year. Like, get out! Who are you? You're tweeting 200 characters at a time. Piss off.
And then you listen to what Chris Baker has to say.
Just take it easy and trust the pros. I'm sorry, that's all I'm saying.
Chris Baker is totally different than
and
those
the same
guys
people
on his view.
who were LOLing at Tage Thompson the past however long are now gassing them up like they're discovered
And this
some
podcast
diamond
has
in the
pumped it up
rough.
from the beginning.
Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
This podcast has pumped Tage's tires since the beginning.
No, it's just like I understand where a lot of the frustration from Sabres Twitter comes from.
Completely.
And it's what we do at times because the team has been so bad that if you weren't engaged in trying to like figure out how to make it better, you would just roll over and not care. That's the other half. So if you look at the Sabres' dedicated fan base that existed in the mid-2000s, the portions of it that I think people went one of two ways. The team got bad, you either stop watching or you kind of learn what analytics were and you maybe overdid it sometimes. I would say everyone does, and there's a lot of people we're sub-podcasting here right now who I think make some really good points very frequently, and I don't agree with this one specifically.
Yeah.
But
sub-podcasting.
Like, yes, I was gonna say subtweeting, but we're not tweeting about it. There's a lot of things that are going to happen with the lineup on Thursday that aren't going to be the same in the lineup on Friday. There's a lot of things that are going to happen this week that we're never going to see again.
There might be differences in the lineup between the first and third period
Absolutely.
on Thursday.
This is going to be a new experience for a lot of coaches and a lot of teams. And it doesn't mean it's going to work. Maybe it works the first day and it's complete shit on Friday. But there are a lot of teams are just going to have to work through it and coach through it.
I'm just mad about one thing. In the Sabres' peak of the new millennium, we didn't let the shitty play of the Bills ruin anything. We just enjoyed what the Sabres were, and the Bills were, whatever at that point.
The lovable losers.
Don't kill my high.
I don't know. There's nothing someone could tweet on the internet right now about the Sabres that would kill my Bills high.
The thing is I follow a decent amount of people from Sabres Twitter, and that's probably my fucking fault at this point, because all I see now are miserable tweets about the Sabres. I'm like, guys, the Bills are in the divisional round for the first time since half of all y'all were fucking born.
And the Sabres haven't played a game yet.
The Sabres haven't played a game yet.
You know what's really funny is everybody in the city is like, Bills, playoffs, Bills. And I was like, fucking Sabres play Thursday, bro. Bills are barely out of my mind.
You're wrong.
Because I'm not. I'm excited. I love it. But I'm such a huge hockey fan. I'm such a huge Sabres fan.
I just don't. The thing is don't kill my high.
Understood. I just think it's funny.
Don't tweet about me about how you're still pissed that Johan Larsson's not a fucking Sabre anymore. I don't care.
Oh,
because Josh Allen is a god. Don't kill my high.
Don't bitch about how Johan Larsson is not a Sabre anymore. After how many years?
Archer Ruotsalainen's in Rochester. Big fucking whoop.
After how many years of us hearing about how bad Johan Larsson was, now it's like, oh, Johan Larsson's gone.
Big whoop. Well, Ruotsalainen's not playing in Buffalo to start the season. Oh no. You know what I care about instead of hearing that kind of misery? Stephon Diggs is a Buffalo Bill, bitches.
People that buy mics don't fucking drop them. If that's broken, you're buying a double cost microphone.
Wow.
Worth it for the show.
I would say people that drop mics don't fucking pay for them.
You're adding quality realism, right?
I've got an extra. I can give you one. Worth it. I'll do it again. I won't do it again. It'll be that goofy me.
If the Bills win the Super Bowl, you get one free mic drop.
You know what's funny? That's the only mic I actually fucking paid for in this entire podcast. These were all donated, except for mics, by
great.
a band called the Nickel City Pimp Choir.
Oh, that's more awesome. I'd be more mad if one of those was dropped. You can't replace that.
The only mic I paid for, you just dropped.
Anything else on the Sabres game on Thursday? I mean, at this point, I feel like a lot of people are just kind of waiting to see how it goes. I'm excited to see Taylor Hall with Jack Eichel in actual regular game action as a Sabre.
After watching the scrimmages, this is going to be the worst matchup metaphor you've ever heard, and I can't wait to see your reactions. After seeing after watching saber scrimmages, I am waiting for the real thing. I feel like someone from the Cullen family in Twilight getting animal blood and not human blood, dude. I'm ready for the real deal.
I have no idea what you're talking about because I've never read or watched.
You never seen
one
Twilight,
second of
dude?
Twilight in my
The
life.
Cullens
Nope.
don't kill people. They only kill animals. And they don't get the same satisfaction out of animals. It's kind of like eating a vegetable burger as opposed to eating a real burger.
So the Sabres will only beat teams
Justin's
that have
been
animals
over
as
there
mascots?
drinking non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah.
He wants a Molson.
Did I
The
just hear a
only-
fucking Twilight reference?
Yeah, I think that's a
did.
first in the history of this podcast.
On the same episode we complained about snow, we heard a Twilight reference.
I think that we might need to be done.
Mike just threw his mic.
Threw his wind guard at it.
He threw see, we're throwing shit at this point. I
I'm
think
actually
we're,
surprised none of you watched Twilight.
I think we're
Not
done.
one
Why?
second.
I think I might turn to Jeff.
And I actually thought
Get
like
this
I
gone.
like reading.
Get
so
to the
I asked them
garage,
if I should
son.
read the
Jeff,
books,
as much as your
and they
girlfriend
said they're
reads.
terribly written, so I can't.
She
I
may,
would-
much as your
she may
girlfriend
have
reads-
read it at some point.
You never
but
watched
those are
movies
also
with her?
old books, and I've never seen the movies.
Oh wow!
Not 1 second. Nope.
I feel like it's a
also,
you problem at this point.
the time when those movies were coming out, and like I would have been dragged on dates. I was what we called a loser and a nerd, and I
Listen,
didn't go
I'm very
on any
into
of
pop
those.
culture.
Is that really pop? I mean, yeah, I guess
It
yes.
was.
It is very much
It
pop
was.
culture.
Edward Pattinson was the.
Robert Pattinson.
That's his name, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I don't know his
Gonna
name.
be-
See,
gonna be
I'm not
Batman.
that big of a
The one
Twilight guy.
Twilight enthusiast in the room gets his name wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, Twilight, I wouldn't call me a Twilight enthusiast.
You were real excited to use
Of
a
the
Twilight
room, you
reference.
are.
I thought it was going to be a terrible joke. And
He's like, I love the Sabres. You know what else I love?
it missed because none of you-
Vampires.
it would have been
You know
funny
what I love?
if any of you.
Stephanie Meyer.
If any of you watched Twilight, it would have been hilarious. But none of you. I didn't know that. I
You
would have
need
never
to
made the
frame
joke.
all of your future references as Lord of the Rings movie.
I've never seen any of those.
Neither have I.
What?
You were a loser.
I know.
Dude,
I watched those recently.
I'm kidding.
The
Jeff.
entire, all
I-
of them extended versions.
See, I've
within the last
never
3
done the
years.
extended versions, but I read the books. I love the books. And see the movies. There's not enough sci-fi references for this outro of the show. This show is dead. Derek is right. This
Go-
show is at this point.
Rest
Go
of
sports.
Well, we have one more thing we have to do.
We're
We
still
didn't
for
do
Norris.
it. We have one more thing we have to do.
What?
No one predicted a score of the Bills game on Saturday.
I was
Right.
thinking about it. I was getting stressed.
Bills 17 to snow.
fuck you.
Oh my gosh.
So Justin has Bills 17, Ravens 42. Gotcha. Derek.
Kill me now. You know what? Bills, fuck you. Ravens, Justin. That's my scoreboard right there. Really, I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna predict it's not heavy snow and the Bills win 23-20.
Well, he learned his
Yeah,
lesson
that's an
last week. He
interesting
gave the
score.
Ravens touchdowns.
I was thinking about 17. I'm like, nah, I'll give him another touchdown.
Mike.
I'm going to go Bills 24, Ravens 22.
Ooh, that's a nice football score. That's
Interesting,
scoring on me
huh?
territory.
Dude, the
Yeah,
forecast for
that's-
Saturday is 33
that's
and
funky.
cloudy.
Yep.
Like,
That's funky.
No one knows at this point. It's too far
I think
out.
something funky is going to
respect it.
happen during the
I
game.
respect it.
Steve.
I like the Bills offense to do a little bit better than it did last week. So I'm going to go 34-27.
Nice. You and I are right around the same. I have Buffalo 34-24, but Buffalo gets a late touchdown to ice it. I think it's pretty close, and you get a last 5-minute touchdown drive from Josh Allen and crew.
so
That
wait,
puts it away.
the weather, literally no snow forecast throughout the day.
Listen.
20%.
As 12 hours ago, they were talking about lake effect storm that day, and I'm not wrong. I listened to it on the radio.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but right now it's saying
It was a big deal throughout the morning and afternoon.
20% chance.
I think either way, worrying about it on a Monday when you can't even tell what the weather's going to be like
Correct.
tomorrow is a bit silly.
It never. It's rare. We'll see.
I have been on the golf course getting poured on with the weather telling me that it was partly sunny. I opened my weather app to see how long we were going to get poured on, and it said, for your location, partly sunny and 78 degrees, as the
if
sky
we
was
get-
literally dumping
If we get
buckets
a
on my
snow
head.
pocket for half an hour, it's okay too.
I've seen a weather app tell me it's going to be
Half
90
hours,
and
2 quarters,
snowing,
dog.
so
Not in the playoffs, it's not. Those extra commercial breaks, that is 1 quarter.
Fair.
Big time.
Oh,
Those
well-
games are marathons.
Well, for everybody right now, it's looking like 20% chance of anything. and it's cloudy.
Well,
Very
we'll find out.
windy.
If it's gonna snow, we'll edit this part of the podcast. We'll edit it in post.
We don't edit shit.
Justin's going to go back and edit it every day and repost it with an updated forecast.
Excellent.
Heard.
It's not going to be 42
The weather's
degrees.
good. The weather's going to be 45 degrees. It's going to be partly cloudy. Steve Tasker says, "Bring a hoodie." Anyway, thank you all for listening here to the 716 Sports Podcast. We hope we have another Victory Monday show for you next week. Everyone enjoy the game. Check us out on Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play. Check us out social media wise on Facebook.com. So it's 716 Sports Podcast, Twitter.com at 716 Sport Podcast. Be sure, while you are listening, while you are trolling the interwebs, to check out our sponsor, Manscaped.com. Use our code 716 Sports for 20% off and free shipping on your order at checkout. On behalf of everyone here, Justin, Derek, Steve, and Mike, my name is Jeff. We'll see you back here. Well, you'll hear us back here next week. Talk to you soon.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
We're still for Norris.
Go Sabres.